that's not the only thing on the agenda. The Bears have a new head coach, and speaking of head coaches, Raiders tackle Donald Penn is here to share his thoughts on Oakland's new $100 million head man.
That is a lot of money. First, though, what a game last night in New Orleans. The Panthers giving the Saints all they could handle in their third meeting of the year with a challenge for Drew Brees. Beat us through the air, and he happily obliged to the tune of 376 passing yards, 80 of which came on this heads-up play to a receiver that was not supposed to get the ball here. Ted Ginn, who was open when Mike Thomas was not, and the Saints were on the board first, 7-zip. Cut to the fourth, Saints with a 5-point lead with 2 minutes left, and they go for it on 4th and 2 at the Panthers 47, and they don't get it. So Carolina has the ball and lots of time and a short field. But the Saints D comes through with the stop. A massive sack to end the game with 11 seconds left, and the Saints are headed to the divisional round with a 31-26 win.
Feels good. It's hard to beat. It's hard to beat a team 3 times, especially a team as prideful as the Panthers. And we got a lot of respect for those guys. Got a lot of respect for that coach and that defense. And we always have battles with those guys. So we knew this was going to be an extremely tough task. We knew we needed to play a near flawless game and make the plays when we needed to make them. It was a team effort, and so there's no better feeling than knowing that you just won a playoff game as a team, and now you're on to the next one.
Come here, just to get a shot. We came here to win, and that's what we didn't do. I kind of caught a sense of a lot of people just being satisfied with being in the playoffs. But I will learn from this, and I will get better from it.
I want to know who he's talking about there in Carolina who was satisfied with being in the playoffs. But since we'll have the entire offseason to discuss that, Reggie Wayne and David Carr, let's dig in on the team that won this game, which showed exactly why they are so hard to defend. Stop them on the ground, which they did, 45 yards. Then they'll hit you through the air, which they also did with a lot of success, Reggie.
Yeah, and a lot of talk this year was about these running backs, but it's all about Drew Brees.
Well, it was in this game, right?
Yes, man. Let me walk up here. It was a lot of crawfish eating, beignet eating, po' boys, because of the Saints Nation. They were so excited about their big win, and it was all about this guy, Drew Brees. Like I said, it was a lot of talk about Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram throughout the year, but you still had Drew Brees available when ready. Here you have him staring down his #1 target, Michael Thomas, and looking off this secondary and finding Michael Thomas in the second window. You know why? Because Drew Brees can move you with his eyes. Now, who is number 89? That's Josh Hill, the backup guy that came in for the injured Kobe Fleener. Runs. Drew Brees looks off the safety and throws a perfect back shoulder throw down the seam that was heavily covered. But only a person like Drew Brees can make that throw and get you a big catch. Now you have Ted Ginn Jr. right here on a 3rd and long 4. Knows that he can run the simple slant arrow concept and move the linebacker with his eyes. He moved him with his eyes and was able to hit Ted Ginn Jr. in the second window. Find a big first down and keep a drive moving. Like I said, there was a lot of talk about these running backs and what they did all year. But Drew Brees' arm was healthy and fresh and ready to go. He knew it's playoff time, and he was able to deliver when it was time to do it.
They really are the ultimate pick-your-poison offense. The 3rd best team in the regular season on the ground and the only quarterback in the league with 5 5,000-yard seasons. That said, the defense that they're facing this week, they are just as good at their craft, if not better. #1 in scoring D, #1 in total D, also #1 in stopping the big plays. David, is there an edge here in this battle, a mismatch perhaps?
I don't know. When you look at it, there's the Vikings defense who's playing at home now. Home field advantage is huge, especially in the playoffs. The crowd's going to be rocking, so you don't have the ability like you normally would have at home to kind of do some things at the line of scrimmage that you normally would do. So saying that, Sean Payton's going to have to dial something up. That's kind of like a call it and run it. Maybe you have some non-verbal communication, but for the most part, the Minnesota Vikings are going to come in with the same plan that we saw against the Saints last week. Stop the run, which they are fully capable of doing. And I feel like the Minnesota Vikings on the back end feel like they have a better defense than the Carolina Panthers do. So secondary-wise, I don't know if they're afraid of them. I don't know if there's receivers out there, Michael Thomas. They have guys that can match up. Even Harrison Smith can come down The only thing that I can see for the Saints is possibly those running backs, like we talked about. And you don't use them in a conventional role, you use them at wide receiver. So you move them out, see if those linebackers can cover, give them some funky formations. The first formation the Saints gave the Panthers was an empty set. Motion out of the backfield, we're going to throw it. So I think that that's going to have to be the way they approach this thing. I don't know if you're going to go out, be able to run the football. It's probably going to be a lot like you had last week. Drew Brees is going to have to make tight window throws, big-time throws, just like he did. He's fully capable of doing it, but it's going to be another heroic effort from him.
You mentioned the home field advantage that the Vikings will have in that dome. Mike Zimmer today calling on all fans to make it as loud as possible to impact Drew Brees in particular. All right, before we move on entirely from the Saints wild card game, there is the issue of Cam Newton and whether the Panthers properly followed the concussion protocol when he stumbled after a hit in the fourth. Wasn't he supposed to go to the locker room, Ian Rappaport?
According to the new concussion protocol policy that came out just a couple weeks ago, if a player does stumble or show signs that they do not have consciousness or are losing consciousness, they are supposed to go to the locker room and receive a full concussion evaluation. And perhaps that is why the NFL and the NFLPA are investigating the application of the concussion protocol after this hit that you're seeing right there of Cam Newton. Reminder that if the Panthers are considered to be in violation, they could be subject to discipline. But as far as what Newton was actually doing, that is up for debate. The Panthers contend he was instructed and has been instructed to sit down himself on the field to allow Derek Anderson ample time to warm up. Obviously now the NFL and the NFLPA are looking into it and trying to figure out why he did that.
So their argument that he wasn't stumbling at all, that it was a purposeful go-to-the-ground maneuver on his part. Ian Rappaport back with more in a bit. Thank you, Ian.
The Rams back in the playoffs in their second season in Los Angeles. Members of the 1979 Rams were on hand. Jared Goff making his first playoff appearance. Matt Ryan used to this. He had 9 touchdown passes and no picks last year in the postseason. Devontae Freeman powering his way into the end zone with a little help from Alex Mack. The Falcons up 13-0 on the road in L.A. Fourth quarter, Matt Ryan slips, but still drops it in the bucket for Julio Jones. The Falcons go on to win 26-13. Another nice game for Matt Ryan and that man, Julio Jones. The defense also playing very, very well. Take a look at the numbers for the Falcons defense. The last couple of weeks, they have allowed 10 points and 13 points. Speaking of defense, one of the best to ever do it right here, the postseason sack king, Willie McGinnis. And I don't know if you saw this last week, but there were several polls in Philadelphia asking which team the Eagles fans wanted to see. And the majority wanted to see the Falcons as opposed to either the Saints or the Panthers. So they're going to get their wish. But how does this offense, led by Nick Foles, stack up against this Falcons defense that's playing so well right now?
I don't think it goes through Nick Foles. I think if you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you're the fans and that's your team, you want to turn this into an ugly smash-mouth type football game. You want to win this game in the trenches. And I always talk about how athletic the linebackers and the guys in the skill positions are for the Atlanta Falcons, but they are smaller. They do a great job at covering out of the backfield. They do a great job at pursuing to the ball. Yes, they can get after you with the front four. They have athletic defensive linemen. But if I'm Philadelphia and I'm looking at the atmosphere, it's cold, it's going to be rigid. Our team is built for this. We got 3 big running backs that like to ground it out, that are physical, that want to pound you. I'm going to turn this into an ugly football game. If you try to go out there and finesse with Nick Foles against this defense, they'll continue to do what they've been doing for the last few weeks. They'll get after the quarterback, they'll take the football away, and they can match up when you try to throw the ball. So turn this into an ugly physical game up front.
So the Eagles fans may have gotten who they wanted, but it's the first time since the playoffs were expanded in 1990 that a 6 seed is favored on the road over a number 1 seed. Meanwhile, over in the AFC, the Chiefs had their season ended by the Titans, but you can't put it on Alex Smith. The Chiefs quarterback led the NFL passer rating this season and was solid once again in that wild card game against the Titans. That's one of the reasons why his OC is now a head coach. Let's bring in Ian Rappaport one more time. Matt Nagy moving on up from OC and KC to head coach in Chicago. Only 2 seasons as an offensive coordinator and only 6 games actually calling the plays rap sheet. What sold Chicago on Nagy?
Well, a lot of it was the way he worked with the quarterback. Should be noted that Alex Smith did have the best year probably of his career And when Nagy took over play calling duties, the Chiefs offense exploded once again. This is what the Bears believe and hope that they are getting. Help at the quarterback position. And so much, Dan, of their search was about going something not John Fox. They wanted young. They wanted offense. They wanted someone to help with the quarterback position. They believe they got that. They have Mitchell Trubisky, who they'd like to take the next step. Next year, perhaps Nagy can do for Trubisky what they did for Alex Smith. The expectation is he signed a 4-year deal concurrent with Ryan Pace, and they're excited about the future.
And he becomes the third youngest head coach in the NFL behind McVay and Shanahan. Adam Gase, also 39, but he's a month older. Meanwhile, Bill Belichick speaking for the first time since a controversial article by Seth Wickersham last week that had all of New England in an uproar. The story described a tenuous relationship between Belichick and Tom Brady, indicating the Patriots dynasty could be crumbling. Then there was another story that linked Belichick to the Giants head coaching job.
Hey, Bill, there was a report in the New York Daily News this weekend that you would have some interest in coaching the Giants. Just want to see if there's any truth to that.
Right now, my interest is trying to do the best I can for our football team to get ready